Hello, soulmates, and welcome to the Candid Conversations TV show with DocV. I'm Dr. Virginia LeBlanc-Shazad, the Pivot Maestro and your heart surgeon for your soul hurts. I tell you, Candid Conversations is going to be so fire today. This is a place where we have real talk, and we bring guests who are all about bringing the truth, the transparency, and the love. Because at DP, at our Defining Paths International, we are all about lifting you into that possibility mindset to serve, profit, and sustain in life and business. And the only way you can truly do that is through truth, transparency, and love. So you are our why, our motivation, and we're here to help you navigate those waters and put you back in business so we can rise together, right? So here, you never know what you're going to get other than real talk. We have real talk without exception. We bring our guest spotlights from Define Your Path podcast to Candid Conversations, where they share more on their personal experiences, their journeys, their life and business intersection. And it is the norm always, without exception, to speak truth and have real talk. So it's all about helping you heal, rebuild, and transform from the inside out. So you're so welcome to this show, and you never know what you're going to get. So buckle up. We're going to have a great time. No, actually, take those seatbelts off, relax, kick your feet up. We're going to have a great time. We're going to have girl talk, and we guarantee it will always be light, love, and life for your soul. So we are bringing back Define Your Path podcast spotlight guest, Akary Busto. Akary, welcome back, and welcome to Candid Conversations TV show.
Thank you for having me back. I'm looking forward to this.
Yes, girl. I am so excited because our pre-talk was already fire and so enlightening, and we were already in our flow. So we're just going to pick up and let everybody else join in with us. But audience, before we do that, I want to remind you to go back and watch the podcast episode, the Define Your Path podcast episode with Akary, and it's so enlightening and powerful as well. So we're just continuing the conversation. And before we jump in, let me refresh you on who she is. So, Akary Busto is an emotional biohacker, nervous system specialist, and trauma informed quantum human design guide. She helps women move from burnout to embodied balance through a science meets soul approach that integrates HeartMath techniques, breathwork, and human design. So I love it. I love all of that together. As the founder of Akary Mind Body Soul, she has guided hundreds of women to rewire their nervous systems, don't be afraid, transform emotional patterns, and reclaim self trust. Her work bridges the gap between emotional intelligence and somatic healing, empowering women to feel safe in their bodies and aligned with and in their purpose. So, Akary, girl, let's just pick up, let's follow our flow, and let's just start off with how you've risen from the ashes.
Oh my God, how many times have I risen from the ashes?
Exactly.
I have this running joke that before I came to this planet, I made a
Yeah.
choice of having the most difficult early young childhood life
Yes.
because I wanted to learn fast and
Yeah.
quick, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I think the first time I rose from the ashes was when I was quite young, and
Mhm.
my parents decided it was time for me to move out and be an adult. I was
Mm.
18, and it was really scary. It was really scary. I had to work 3 jobs just to keep myself alive. And at the same time, I was expected to help with the family, right? Being an
Mm.
immigrant, it is really difficult for the assimilation. And it really takes a village. And so I was part of that village trying to help my family also uh, stay alive. So it was
Yeah.
very much survival. So I think that was like the first time that I had my first nervous system crackdown, right? Because it was just so
Yeah.
overwhelming to be working 3 jobs and to be so young and have to be so self-reliant and hyper independent.
Right.
That was probably the biggest piece that now that I look backwards, I'm like, what in the world were they thinking?
I mean, how in the world at that age, at that young age, so many people, would not have been able to pick themselves up or I guess have the wherewithal to do all that you did. Like, where did that come from, do you think?
I think it's just a survival thing.
Yeah.
When you don't have any other choice but to put yourself out there,
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't have a choice. And I have a childhood friend that I have remained friends with, and we kind of laugh about this.
Yeah.
When I would go to her home to pick her up, to take her to school, to go to college, her dad would be there with fruit and something for her to eat, and literally like babying her, and it would make me laugh because I would poke fun at them. I would be like, oh yeah, baby bird, let me feed you. um, but that really is how it should be.
Mm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So in my mind, being hyper independent was just the way we survived, the way we got ahead. And it
Yeah.
was just like the mentality was just really shifted. It didn't have to be that way, but it is how I knew how to be in order to survive in a new culture, in a new way.
Yeah.
When I would be with my grandparents, it was the same experience as my friend in her own home was, where my grandparents would, make sure that I was eating, wanting to know what fruit I wanted, like little things like that. So I got a chance to experience both ends of it, but truly that was probably the most dramatic experience of having to rise from the ashes, not being able to go to college right away because I had to survive. So it took me a lot longer to get through school because I had to work to stay alive. And
Yeah.
that's not an experience that a lot of people have. A lot of people quit,
Mm.
right? A
Yeah.
lot of people just quit. And for me, quitting was not an option. It was just a matter of going to school 24/7. I mean, every break I was taking a class.
Yeah, yeah. Girl, and I imagine you were probably dealing with issues about fitting in, or let me not put words in your mouth. I mean, how did you feel? Because, like, I know there were times where, because I'm a recovering people pleaser. So, I always felt more mature because, of just the experiences, the life experiences, and quite honestly, the trauma in a lot of respects that I faced as a child. I always felt like I was ahead. And even in my intelligence level, and and that's there's no ego here, so it's just facts. Because I used to get teased, when I was younger, just about my intellect, or thinking I'm a white girl or whatever, those silly things. And so I'm just wondering if you had experiences where you felt like you didn't fit in, and it was directly tied to just having to figure it out super early and survive, and that whole piece.
Well, I think we grow in our capacity, right? We
Yeah,
grow
yeah,
in our capacity to do things. And so what is really difficult for one person becomes our normal for us. And
yeah.
so that baseline shift, like that
Oh,
survival,
so good. Yeah.
it is amazing. In retrospect, it's amazing because nothing's going to bring me down, right? Like you start to develop that callus about
Hmm.
how you're going to be and how you're going to show up. But
Yeah,
yeah, I totally get that. I was always the black sheep. I was
yeah.
the one who was questioning. I was questioning religion. I grew up
Hmm.
Catholic,
Hmm.
and so things just didn't make sense because I'm very logical.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I I grew up being the black sheep, and it was that high intellect, like you say, that didn't allow me to fit in. I wasn't good
Hmm.
enough,
Hmm.
or I was Miss Goody Two Shoes. But when
Yeah.
someone got into trouble, I'm the first person that anyone wanted on
Right.
their team. So it was you're damned if you are and damned if you're not.
And girl, when you finally come to that realization, isn't it freeing when you just like let it go? Because you realize there's no winning, and it's really not about winning, or even pleasing people who, because not everyone's meant for you, but of course at a young age, I mean, we're not thinking like that, or until we have that awakening, and really embrace that fact. It's so freeing.
It's a little bit of a curse when you're young, right? Because
Hmm.
feeling annihilated from your own family
Yeah.
is a trauma in and of itself.
Right.
And I think that as I was growing up, I learned to not be afraid of that annihilation, and so then you
Hmm.
have no power over me.
Yeah.
A lot of it, a lot of the pressures that I felt were based on the beliefs of my mother, and I recognized how influential parents are in their child's life. And if
Yes.
we don't learn how to become more neutral in how we talk to our children,
Hmm.
we are imposing and imprinting on them
Hmm.
beliefs that don't even belong to them. And so, from the way I was raised was I had to go to college so that I could have a career, not
Hmm.
because I loved what I did. It was just that I needed to find a better job that paid more. It wasn't
Right.
a joy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the next thing was to find a man to get
Hmm.
married and to have children. And so my stepfather would continuously remind me that it didn't matter if I went to college, that I could go translate at the airport because, why waste time and money? I was going to get married and have kids anyway.
Right. Yeah,
And
girl. Yeah.
and that mentality and that way of thinking, it was like the shadow,
Hmm.
because I consistently asked myself, what if they're right and I'm wrong?
That that questioning of self, because, and I think that's why it took me so long to break free of carrying, cares of this world, you know. And it's that piece that you just said. Elaborate on that a little more, sis, because you were flowing there. So I'm sorry. Or
No,
my
no,
soul
no.
just agreed.
And the logical part of my brain
Yeah.
should have been turned on so that I could say, well, who is she to tell
Hmm.
me all of these things as facts? Because that's how I was receiving them. And
Hmm.
she's not a therapist, she's not a psychologist, she's not a
Hmm.
family coach. Like she's just this woman who's never been out into the world trying to tell me how to live my life.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
now when I look back, I'm thinking, duh, girlfriend, like you were on the right track.
Hmm.
And so I ended up, this is the way I describe it. For
Yep.
18 years, I lived in a cage that was imposed onto me. I
Mm.
was about learning and growing, and just there was so much of me that wanted to learn to understand things. And
Yeah.
they thought I was like a weirdo because I wanted to go to the library, and I had like three, four books with me because I just knew that they were not going to take me back to the library in a long time. So I
Mm.
would sit there and I was reading like three books at the same time, just devouring information,
Yeah.
but also escaping from my reality. Like we
Yeah.
have to call it what it is. It was my escapism.
Girl, yeah, no, that's so real. And it takes me back to a thought about, coming up also in the performing arts arena as I did, the willing suspension of disbelief.
Hmm.
I mean, it's such a mouthful and it can apply to so many different things. But to survive in your reality sometimes, that is the thing that helps you,
Coping
to break.
mechanism.
Yeah, it's a coping mechanism to help you unplug from that matrix, from the programming and the sociocultural, parental conditioning, all of these things, that prevent us from discovering or exploring who we are or why we came to this earth. Figuring out who we are,
Yeah.
and what our purpose is in this flesh. So that's why I love, the work that you do and the angles that you come at it from, particularly like within human design. A lot of people don't know what human design is, and it's funny because I think back in 2010, it was like I started developing when I was preparing to leave the workforce or what have you for the first time. But there's a whole backstory there. And it was like I had become disillusioned with the university setting and just that whole construct, which is a mouthful, and I'm sure you and I could probably talk days about that. But I created something called I called it creative life design which is essentially human, human design, but just the fact that we have that power to define our own paths, to chart our own course, to discover, why we're here, follow our passions and what have you. So, can you talk a little bit for those folks who are watching, about human design and ultimately, how it can help us come to an understanding, whether it's, affirming, confirming, kind of that aha, that revelation for our purpose, why we're here. Because a lot of people have these thoughts, right? And we question, that question pops up, in our heads throughout life, I'm sure, until we figure out, we find that soul purpose, but we don't understand where it's coming from, or or have, and we always have that doubt, what you were saying earlier, that doubt that's planted.
Yeah, human design, I think, is a fantastic tool that gives you permission to experiment
Mm,
because there are things that we already know about ourselves, but we've been conditioned that we are wrong. And
yeah.
then you add the layer of being a female, and in our society, we are always wrong. They are
Right.
right, we are wrong.
Yeah.
And that is a big piece that I think human design really comes in and gives us a little more power, permission slip to be more powerful in our own right.
I love that. Yes.
So when you're learning your human design, you start to learn how you are here to operate. And we have sacral beings, meaning we have a lot of energy, motivation, flow, all of this. And we're
Hmm.
here to create, to build. And as we're creating and we're building, we also need teachers and guides.
Hmm.
And we also need those people who initiate with an idea. And we also need the quality control people that can tell us what is missing. So
Hmm.
together, this orchestra gets put together so beautifully when there's an opportunity to, and we can actually take in from each other what we need in order to create a fuller, richer life. So human design teaches us what character are we here to play in this movie,
Yeah.
this drama, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And as you start to dig deeper into it and spiral deeper into it, you also learn how you are here to make decisions, which
Hmm.
is just powerful,
Yeah.
powerful, right?
Right.
So all of these little bits and pieces that you start to unravel with human design takes you even to what environment is your best environment, how you
Hmm.
take in information, what is your digestion telling you? Can I eat the same thing every day at the same time? Or do I need to be more open-minded around what foods are attracting me? So there's
Yeah.
just so much to learn about yourself that all of a sudden you go, oh, really, I do.
Yeah.
And so that's what makes this work so powerful. And it's combining it with real embodiment, right? Because that's the
Yeah.
hard part. And it's my favorite thing to say is if you want a human design reading and not have anything else, you just want a reading, go
Yeah.
do ayahuasca, you know, because that's the same thing. You go have a ceremony with ayahuasca, you can see the future, but then you come back and there's no embodiment, there's no
Right.
framework that's going to take you from A to Z.
Yes.
And so
I,
that's the piece that I really love. I really love that
yes.
I can give you so much permission to step into your power, but
Hmm.
then at the same time, we put it into practice with your nervous system because if you don't have nervous system flexibility, you can't move up in life. You get
Yes.
stuck in that same paradigm.
No, that is so good. Nervous system flexibility. Now, how many of you guys have heard that? Y'all need to drop that in comments. And then y'all need to reach out to Akari to find out more about that.
Yeah, it's all
But
about
no,
the flex, girl.
it is. But just sitting with this and just hearing you speak about it and just kind of the journey I've been on the past 3, 4 years or so, it's like it's so refreshing to be unplugged. Because like I'm thinking about the journey also, and just so you were talking about the embodiment, and literally you can't just learn. This, it's living it, right? And so it's that whole rewiring of the entire system. And I literally see myself doing that now, like every minute, every hour of the day. If it doesn't feel right, I'm not flowing with it. I'm putting up that roadblock, when like just being out, in society. Also, if there are things that just don't feel right, it's like now your body is aware and empowered to make choices that are life-giving, and that are going to empower you and going to keep you on the path that you chose, right, before you came here.
Yeah,
It's that go ahead.
I think what I would like to really put out there is think about the hundreds of things
Hmm.
that you have to do every day. I mean,
Hmm.
there's no compromise. Like you have to do.
Right.
So the things that you have a choice around, wouldn't it be lovely to be able to tap into your sacral space if you're a sacral being and be like, uh-huh, like yeah, like I really want to do this. And
Yeah.
the passion and the drive and the energy and the joy that comes from tapping into something
Hmm.
versus being like, I don't know, I guess I'll do it, and then and that energy starts to get smaller and smaller,
Yeah.
and you don't get to show up at your fullest or your best.
Girl, you are speaking absolute truth because I was being drained because I am a sacral being. But when I think back to the workspace, right, when those limitations and those ceilings and all that other stuff and hierarchies, or literally suppressing that, it's no wonder so many people, they feel like their soul is being snuffed out. It actually is.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have room or space to breathe. It's trying to bring you to life. It's trying to live, your purpose, and we're trying to fit into these little bitty boxes that can barely contain a foot, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm working with a woman right now.
Yeah.
She's 64, doesn't want to retire, but
Mm.
she's so burnt out.
Yes.
And you know, my favorite question is, what did you have for breakfast this morning?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
That's how I start my communication because I want to understand that body space. Where are you in that body space? Because if you're not in an energetic fuel body, then the
Yeah.
mind and the soul are not going to be aligned. And
Mm.
so, sure enough, she went to go do her labs, has a really high A1C, which means that she is pre-diabetic,
Yeah.
uh, high cholesterol, high like all the warning signs, like her
Yeah.
personal dashboards, like flipping signs, and she had no idea because she doesn't self-care because she's so busy being whatever
Hmm.
her title is.
Girl, preach,
And
speak.
here's the worst case scenario, Doc.
Yeah. Yeah.
Her worst case scenario is she doesn't die,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
That's the worst case scenario because if she
That's real.
lives with a
Yeah.
metabolic dysfunction, however that ends up showing up in her life, I mean, being insulin resistant is a big deal. Having to put shots in your body just to
Yeah.
manage your glucose because you're not eating correctly, you're not feeding your temple, you're not taking care of this beautiful
Yes.
vehicle that you've been given. So
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with being part of the corporate world if you learn how to do it
Yes.
respectfully.
That. Wow.
Being able to say, I come first.
Yes.
I need this mental health day. I need to go get my labs checked. High cortisol is not sustainable, especially in women.
Mm-hmm.
80% of women have autoimmune disorders. That should be alarming.
Girl, I just talked to someone yesterday too, that,
So
that has recently been diagnosed.
all of that is a nervous
Stress.
system dysregulation.
Yes.
It
No.
all comes down to the root of a nervous system dysregulated person. And so
Mm.
when you start to look at all of the factors, it's like, okay, so what do I do? How do
Yeah.
I approach this?
Yeah.
And that's where I truly believe in human design, because my human design is about foundations. I'm
Yes.
all about foundations. I go down deep rabbit holes. I'm a researcher,
Me too.
and I try everything. I
Yeah.
try everything. I'm that one person that I'm sure parents would hate, right? That they tell you the stove is hot, and I'm like, how hot is it? Is it really hot? Is it little hot? Like, I'm curious. I want to touch.
No,
And I'm
Kari,
always,
I'm not that researcher.
oh, I am always very curious. If you tell me there's something, you're taking a pill for something,
Yeah.
my next question is, okay, so how are you going to get to the root cause of it? Like,
Yeah.
I'm coming from a very functional lens, like
Right.
what's the root cause of this, and how can you get yourself off a pill that then is going to cause something else to go wrong?
Yeah.
We're very pill happy. We get
Girl.
very pill happy, and
Yes.
I'm not saying don't do it. When you're at that space where you're at an extreme, I say, okay, that's fine. Is there anything else that you can do to support your beautiful human vessel to come back to homeostasis, to
Mm.
alignment?
Yeah.
And that's the world that I live in. My experiences have taught me
Mm-hmm.
that we as humans are very complicated, but
Yes.
biologically, we can really do a lot. It goes
Yeah.
into the cellular level, into
Mm-hmm.
chemistry, right? Not even like college chemistry. We can just stay
Right.
with 11th grade chemistry. 10th grade biology and 11th grade chemistry goes really far.
Yeah.
It goes
Yeah.
really far because it's really basic.
Yeah.
How are we feeding our bodies? What are we doing to make the stress level sustainable before we start to come into the deeper issues? So
Yeah.
I'm really about preventive. And
I
if we're knee
love.
deep into it, let's get you out of it. Let's go
Yeah.
backwards. Let's anti-age. Let's reverse age, because it shouldn't have to show up the way it showed up for our parents.
Yeah, no, girl. I'm all about preventive. And I think though it took that awakening for me. And it took, just this last time having to see every kind of doctor there was out there, you know, and experimenting with both Western and Eastern medicine and just finding that that the Eastern tradition and the holistic practices and what have you were the things that lifted me out of those, conditions and getting me on the path to, just full function homeostasis, as you so aptly put it. We don't talk about this. We don't teach it in educational systems. We don't, none of this stuff, and it's like, when you look at just our education plans or what have you, mentioned biology and chemistry. We don't even apply those in the right way, right? We're looking at putting people into jobs, supposedly, in particular fields, but what is the application of life, right? We all know life happens, we get stressed out. Why aren't we addressing that in the educational system? And let's back all the way up, because if we allow children to explore, they would be more empowered to be able to define their paths into healthy, and into, what they're called here to do. So
So,
girl, that
but,
is,
but
yeah,
I think here the bigger issue now is we're not in control of the educational system. The
yes,
educational system is an imprint, and they're
yes,
here to brainwash us and to
mm,
make us good citizens that go to work every day
yeah,
from 7, 8 a.m. to 5
yeah,
p.m. We don't ask questions. We just get our 20-minute break in the morning, our hour lunch, our 20-minute break in the afternoon, like recess and lunch, right? And
girl,
at this point where we're at, I am a firm believer that education starts at home. I
Yes.
cannot leave that up to the government
Right.
because I just found out that they don't even teach health anymore
Oh,
in schools.
is that right?
They do not teach health, and this is just California. I don't know about the rest of the country, right?
Yeah.
But we're not our children are not being taught. And so my sister sweetly said, my son, who's 6 years old, asked me if I believe that they were people went to the moon. And she said, I didn't know what to tell him. In my opinion, I don't think that, that I think that that could be argued. There's so many conspiracy theories outside of it, and I didn't want to confuse him.
Yeah.
And I said, sis, education starts at home. And
Yeah.
if you allow him to question what he's learning at school and come home and have a discussion, he's going to be so much better off than
Yeah.
the rest of the kids.
Yeah.
Conversations like those happen in the dinner table, at the dinner
Yeah.
table.
Yeah.
And, you know, I didn't have those conversations at the dinner table with my parents here.
Yeah.
I remember being 10 years old at a
Mm.
at a dinner at a dinner, I don't know for what. They were all
Yeah.
people who were strangers, but they
Yeah.
were all having conversations back then about
Yeah.
HIV AIDS,
Hmm.
talking about the conspiracy theories of the time, which
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hear about them here until way later as an adult.
Wow.
So it depends on where we're at and who we're with, but I
Mm-hmm.
do think that these kind of conversations start at the dinner table.
No, I mean, and girl, that just opens up a can of worms. I'm in total agreement, but you have parents who are afraid to have conversations with their children because of, either they're feeling that they're not adequate enough to have it, they're not teachers, or, they or they've been taught a certain way, and then so that's just the way it is, that's the way it's going to be, and you just need to fall in line, and all of these other things, these dynamics that we as uh, you know functioning dysfunctionals go through, and so when it comes to just having an open, honest conversation and meeting your children where you are and where they are, and not feeling like you have to be, the be end and end all of authority, right? It gives them a space to have develop that inquisitive mind, right? And maybe tap into that inner. It's so many things that are suppressed. It's 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 no wonder, we're kind of in the state that the world is in today. Because we can't even talk to our own kids. We can't even be honest and open with our own children, which tells me also that we've not been open and honest with ourselves. So it's just a mess.
Yeah, but those are things that can shift.
Yeah,
It takes a village, right? It takes a
it
village,
does.
and that's the part that I
Yeah.
want to continue to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not your zone of genius, it's okay.
Right.
But allow yourself to be immersed in a village where you have people who can talk to your child because your child's not going to
Yes,
listen to you
so
anyway.
good. Right. That too. So it comes from both directions, but yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
But the more what I have found really worked for me, and I'm just going to say it was the grace of God, that
Mm-hmm.
just always put these ways of thinking,
Yeah.
very outlandish way of thinking, and for my generation and for the kind of
Yeah.
family dynamic I came from. But
Mm-hmm.
I always had my daughter with me. If I
Mm-hmm.
had meetings, sales meetings, whatnot, I would always talk to my boss and say, I have an hour. She's going
Yeah.
to give me an hour. So we need to get down to business, and we need to get down to business quick, because when that hour is up and she
Yeah.
is done with you,
Mm-hmm.
we're out of here.
Yeah.
And so she sat with me, she saw these things, she got to develop her own relationships with amazing people. And
Mm-hmm.
I got a chance to take a seat and
Yeah.
have her, talk to this girlfriend, talk to that girlfriend, talk to that girlfriend. She always had one of my friends to lean into who I knew
Mm,
shared the same values, who I
yeah,
knew was always going to have her highest and best interest at mind. And I didn't have to do all of the heavy lifting myself.
girl. And that helps with the nervous system alignment too.
Oh God, yeah, because our children are going to trigger us. They're like in human design, it is believed that our children inherit their grandparents' charts.
Oh, I can see that. Is that why then why grandparents just love on their grandbabies? And if
It,
they
it
cannot do any wrong.
it is so interesting, right? That they just like,
Yeah.
ah, and then the parents are like struggling with their kid, and they get triggered because
Mm,
something reminds them of how they felt when they were young.
yeah.
So it is so intricate, and so I'm telling you, being human is so complicated.
Yeah, it's complicated, but it can be a beautiful thing, when you find that freedom to explore, you understand who you are, why you are, and you start just operating in that flow. So, yeah, it's
There's
fascinating.
opportunity. There's a lot of
Y-
opportunity for us,
Yeah,
but then by design,
yeah,
right? By design, there
yeah.
are people who have a lot of their centers in the chart, and
Mm-hmm.
the centers represent the chakras in the
Mm-hmm.
body.
Yes.
When these centers are defined,
Mm-hmm.
they need to learn how to be more open.
Mm.
Because you look at people and you just go, my gosh, why are
Yep.
you not flexible? And when I look at a person like that, I automatically go, oh, they must have a lot of definition in their chart.
Mm-hmm.
They are here to evolve. They're here for evolution, depending on what
Yeah.
centers are defined. Mainly the head center and
Mm.
the ajna, which is like the third eye chakra.
Yeah. Yeah.
When those two are defined,
Yeah.
people are very, solid. Like they're just like, this is how it is. And it's like, no, actually, there's a lot of different ways to be in the
Yeah.
world. And that's
Mm-hmm.
where curiosity comes in. And that's
Yeah.
where the opportunity comes in. So, yeah, human design allows us to see a lot of different things, and it offers an opportunity for transformation.
Yeah, so good. So I just love when, 'cause I shared in your bio how you help people understand and walk through the whole science meets soul approach. For me, that was just so profound because I'm a very spiritual being, but also I have that scientific, kind of like you said, that logical, critical thinking mind or what have you. So for me, discovering and learning more about human design has just been just so eye-opening and illuminating. It's allowed me to breathe more freely, and so if you feel like it, let's talk a little bit about even folks who might be all soul oriented or people who might be all scientific oriented and they just can't come to the middle or see the overlap. Because I had so many of those conversations, particularly when I was in the university, and so I don't know. What do you think about that? Do you encounter that a lot? I'm sure.
I think we have to be open-minded and recognize
Yeah.
that science hasn't caught up with the spiritual.
Yes.
And I think the older I get, the more pagan I've become. Not
Mm.
because I'm not spiritual and I don't believe in a divine
Yeah.
creator, but
Yes.
because I honor the sun. The sun creates vitamin D in my body, which then creates these metabolic shifts that happen naturally.
Hmm.
I mean, wow.
Yeah.
Right? I can actually create my own vitamin D.
Yeah.
The circadian rhythm starts with the sun. If
Mm.
you get up early in the morning and you start to take the red UV lights that are coming up and you see it in the red of the sun, that is
Mm.
healing for our eyes.
Mm.
If we sit
Wow.
outside and watch the sunset, again, we're creating these beautiful circadian rhythms within our bodies. So how
Mm-hmm.
can I not look at the sun and worship all of the goodness? Everything
Mm.
grows under the sun.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then when we start looking at rain, water, it touches everything for over like centuries, right? It
Yeah.
gives us life. It also helps us grow.
Yeah.
So I think that the more basic we become, the better we're able to recognize that there's a lot of noise,
Yeah.
but when we go back to basics, which is
Yes.
getting our sunshine, hydrating, eating the whole foods that our planet gives us, we
Mm.
actually can find a different rhythm of being instead
Yeah.
of doing.
Yeah, and that's huge. That's so huge. Being instead of doing. That's the space that I'm in, and a girl, and I am so grateful, God. It's it's literally that peace that transcends all understanding. You just don't understand it. I mean, you see, you can think about it critically, logically, that what you how you just broke down, right? These elements that are tied to the divine, tied to all creation. And when we know and understand that we are literally made up of those same elements,
Yeah.
girl, that unleashing that understanding, birthing that understanding and unleashing that power is like it's a whole other level that's unexplainable, you
But when we
know.
talk about the bridging of science and spirituality,
Hmm.
I mean, it's all right there.
Hmm.
Our ancient civilizations have been worshiping the same things across the globe. It's not like this came up in a TED talk. I mean, this is just real life examples. And
Hmm.
so when we start to recognize that sometimes science takes a little bit longer to catch up to the woo,
Hmm.
it doesn't disqualify the woo from
Right.
existing or from working.
Yeah.
And we talk about how misrepresented it has been throughout the centuries where, a lot of the midwives were burnt at the stake
Right.
for knowing how to use the herbs, the things that
You're
our
right.
beautiful planet produced to help. How
Yes.
many pharmaceuticals, synthetic, are out there
Yeah.
because they're brainwashing us to think we cannot get it from our planet. The
Yes.
planet gives us the nourishment that we need to survive. So,
Absolutely.
how do you not bridge science and woo? How do you look at it and
Yeah.
think that your spirituality is less than
Hmm.
humans quantifying and qualifying the facts that we are already living?
Yes. And it's all just purpose constructs to hoard, to capitalize, to, you know, just
To keep us,
control.
to keep us under control. It
Yeah.
doesn't shift. It's a
Yeah.
whole new level of feudalism.
Mm.
Okay, we
Mm-hmm.
can go backwards and I did this similar connections, right? Where we
Mm-hmm.
have our legislators and our elite, rich, wealthy people as the royal court,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
eating organic, eating grass-fed, while the people have a
Mm-hmm.
hard time purchasing, not that it's not available, but either we
Mm-hmm.
are not educated to understand how we can eat better, or we're eating the scraps just like we did during the feudal times.
Yeah.
And so this is the awakening. This is the other revolution around really awakening each other through a lot of kindness, because we don't have
Yes.
to be brutal and go backwards, but we can do it with a lot of love and a lot of kindness and start
Yes.
becoming the village that we need to become for a new survival, and not like survival
Yeah. Yeah.
from a martyr space, right? It's
Yeah. Yeah.
survival from a place that doesn't include fear, but collaboration. I love
Yes.
growing my own food and sharing it with my neighbors. I love being able to, I grow apples. So during the fall, the apples are just bursting out of the trees, and I love being able to
Yes.
put them in a bag and put it in a neighbor's door it just makes me feel good because we have to go back to that village kind
Yes.
of thought process.
And that was, growing up like in our generation, what have you, that was a known thought, concept, entity, you know, and we've lost that. And I mean, we can talk about all the reasons why, but it's so important to realize that one, we weren't put here to just consist in and of ourselves. We were put here to build community, to find and build that village, right? To stand on each other's shoulders, to lift each other up, to love on each other. All of these things that build also and help build a healthy emotional intelligence, and I definitely want to talk about the work in our kind of final waning time, just how you help bridge that gap between emotional intelligence and somatic healing. Because it's so empowering when we do work in community, when we work as a village. We're not meant to be the answer to everything, to do everything. We as women in particular, we can do a lot of things, right? We can figure it out, we can make it happen, whatever. Um, but we're not called to have to do all of that. And so that's why I love collaboration and I love partnering and getting into communities and building a movement and community within Defining Paths International, where we are a global village. And as you and I both, we've joined Female Leaders Rising, and we're creating this ecosystem to empower the economic ability of women. These are all things that we're doing in community, and we're bringing all of those giftings and our purposes and mission together. That's what I think will heal the world. And if we start off with developing that emotional intelligence where we can get into a space where we collaborate instead of compete, which our educational system set us up for that whole competition mindset, right? Our sporting systems, competition mindset, all of this stuff. And, whereas, okay, it might be fun, entertaining, or whatever, there is a super unhealthy aspect to it. And it also, in my opinion, stunts our emotional growth and intelligence. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. And I also think, by separating us, it takes our power away that we would have if we were united. And
yes,
in a global perspective, I think it creates a lot of compassion because we've been turned against each other because different
yeah,
countries have different, agendas.
yes,
And we stop giving these places that much power. And as
hmm,
we're starting to see these systems breaking down, we are co-creating a
yes,
whole new way of doing life. And I think that
yes,
we women are
yeah,
the pillar of that strength. And yes, we can do a lot of things, but we can do a lot more things when we're together.
absolutely, girl. How is that for a mic drop? I love it. I love it. It's all about just together and moving in that direction. And so, we just keep building, keep really building, first of all, turning inside, working inside, going through that awakening yourself. This is why I feel like also we have lost so much where there's not enough love in the world, right? It's starting to come back because people are turning inward, right? They're looking at, themselves when they're seeing also kind of these external things happening. And it's causing the questions to come arise. It's causing actually a remembrance
Mhm.
in my opinion as well, a
Yeah.
remembrance that's awakening and ushering us into this new time that we're moving into now, where it is more of that collaborative love, let's be truthful, let's be transparent um, space.
And I think we have to focus, right? We have to reframe how we see things where we say
Hmm.
they, right? It's always
Yes.
someone else's stuff. But when we
Hmm.
reframe this and we consider ourselves to be the person who I want others to be, that's where
Yeah.
we start to create that social contagion and the
Oh,
ripple effect.
yes. I love it. Yes.
So to me, I love the elderly. I love mothers who are carrying children and bags and all that because I want to be that person who opens their doors,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
because that's who I want to be. That's who I want to show up. If he, she, they are not doing it, it's none of my business. It stops with me and it
Yes.
starts with me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's and that's what it is. That's what we have to get everyone to own, right? That responsibility, right? Not only personal responsibility, but that social responsibility because we are all a community, and I know people like, oh, well, I don't have a responsibility for this person, or why should I do this for that person? Well, it's because no one has ever done anything for you,
Or you or,
and
or you've never let anyone be able to give
yes,
back to you. You're
exactly.
uncomfortable with receiving.
Exactly. And you've gotten the message that it's wrong or it's not normal or whatever, and I love having that conversation about who even defined normal, where did that even come from, and again,
Trauma, it's all trauma.
it's all trauma, trauma and drama.
Blame it on the trauma drama loop, right?
Yes, yes. So, I love folks like you, Akari. I'm so blessed that our paths have crossed and we're doing life and business together now and just, literally just trying to make this world a better place. We need more folks who come from and think like humanitarians because, this world, we only have this world right to take care of right now. And so it's important that we see each other through each other's eyes too, you know. And so I know some people are like, oh, well, you haven't had the upbringing I've had, or you don't have the background, or you don't come from where I do, or and then everything comes down to, of course, just our lived experience. And if we could just find a way to put ourselves or give people space for grace. Maybe that's where I'm going with that. Maybe
Yeah.
that's what's trying to come out of myself. Give people space for
Yeah.
grace, right? They might not be the same color of skin you are, right? What does that matter when it comes down to it, right? Souls don't have color. We are all
Yeah.
divine beings.
But that's the
But
beauty of human design is that it
yeah.
creates space for
Hmm.
compassion, where you realize uh, things that were done to you were not on purpose. We personalize these experiences,
Yeah.
and rightfully so.
Hmm.
But that was not the purpose. Your mother didn't wake up every morning to try and make your life hard. It was
Right.
just by design. These were her
Hmm.
limitations. She was probably in
Hmm.
the lowest expressions of her design and not in the highest expression of who she could have been. It
Hmm.
wasn't personal. And
Yeah.
when you start to adapt that kind of mindset on every single person around you,
Hmm.
you start bringing your power back.
Girl, that was fire. That was so good. Can you reiterate that? I need somebody who's watching this on the YouTube channel to drop this in comments. That was fire. And I'm so glad your soul spoke that because that's the bottom line. That's what giving people space for grace, understanding that. So let me stop talking. Can you say that again, please, dear?
Things that have been done to us have not been on purpose. It's no one's intention to wake up every morning to make your life hard. You also have to hold yourself accountable for allowing these things to happen because you also have free will. But when you start to recognize that it is not personal, it's energy, you can hold compassion for the person's bandwidth. They didn't have the bandwidth, they didn't have the tools, they didn't have the knowledge. It was just not personal. But we make it about me, ourselves, we make it about us when we could just unload that backpack full of rocks that doesn't even belong to you.
Girl, girl, that was fire. I literally have goosebumps. We take personal offense at things, right? We all have willpower. We all have a choice. And we just have to understand that there is a limitation there. That's a part of the design. That was so powerful for me when I learned that. You
Well,
know,
recently I was listening to a podcast and the woman said, people who are easily offended are easily manipulated.
wow.
And I was
Mm,
like, oh my God, that is so true. And so
yeah.
through human design and learning so much about the energies, I realized that very little offends me these days.
Yeah.
And it means that I have my power. I live in my bubble of joy, and
Yes.
no one has any power to make me feel anything other than my joy unless I allow it.
Right. So good. So true.
Yeah, so I refuse to be easily manipulated. Those days are
Girl. I,
over.
right there with you, sis. And and I do want to say this. You don't even have to be a certain age to find that, right? If you come to this awakening or you come to this conversation, you can find it earlier. Some of us found it later in life. I
But
think
that's what
because
I'm
as you
saying.
said,
Those conversations start at
yeah,
the dinner table. Because I'll
yeah,
tell you, my daughter, 24 years old, you come across her and she's going to put you down right
uh,
away, and not in a rude way. She will do it
yeah,
in a very diplomatic space, but she
yeah,
will command her respect in the
yes,
ways that I have shown her to do so.
mm,
Power doesn't come from force.
no. And this is what we all need to learn and embrace. It does not come from force. It's the fear. When you fear something, that's where the force of power. You try to control. That's that unhealthy type of power. But there's a power that is healthy that
Hmm.
literally, that we don't talk enough about, right? We throw words around like in the coaching world or whatever, in whatever circle that you're in, and empowering people and this sort of thing. But we don't understand that there's that wholeness of power that we should all be seeking, the
That we can
fullness of it.
command. Yeah, that we can command just from
Yeah.
being. And I have to
Yes.
tell you, just as an example,
Yeah.
I am not even 5 feet tall. I'm 4'11" and a half. And I'll tell you,
Yeah.
the power comes from within. And so
It
people
does.
will tell me, like there has to be a big person inside of you, because I do command my power.
Yeah.
I don't give permission for
Yeah.
manipulation or for anything that doesn't feel good in my body. It just doesn't move within me unless it's good.
Yes.
And only I can control that.
Yeah, and I think a good starting point, something I would like to just say in our, closing, because I want to give you an opportunity as well, is that I think a lot of people, if they start on this journey or if they haven't even started, they might avoid it because it starts with forgiving yourself and understanding you're human and that your choices were your choices. It was all a part of the plan. So it's not about looking back and living in condemnation or whatever is going on in the psyche or what have you, but embracing these revelations, these newness, and seek to walk it out to reconcile it so that you can stand in your renaissance and your rebirth and just be, would you say?
Yeah, I would say it's grieving the
Mm,
imperfectly perfect person that you are.
yes, brilliant.
It is grieving that, because we are conditioned
Hmm.
to needing, wanting, having to be perfect. But then
Yes.
if we're perfect, we don't get to learn the lessons that we're here to learn.
No.
We miss a lot of that, and obviously that's the struggle that we all come up against. It's not like it's just
Yeah.
me or just you. It's like we all struggle with how we show up because we've been conditioned to be perfect. And so
Yes.
the self-forgiveness is really grieving that conditioning, that it's okay if I show up messy. I'm not going
Hmm.
to show up messy 100% of the time, right? But I
Right.
but it will happen, and I invite compassion, because we're in
Yes.
a society where we have a lot of cancel culture happening
Hmm.
without recognizing that none of us are perfect. And when you don't allow me the safe
Hmm.
space to show up messy, then
Hmm.
how can I allow you to show up messy?
Yeah. There you go. There
But
you go.
it is definitely cancel culture really demands a lot of perfection out of each and every one of us. And I believe that that's really the big fear that comes out of taking up space and showing up is that cancel.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I want to challenge it. I want to defy it. I want to have the opportunity to have solid relationships with people
Hmm.
where we don't see eye to eye, but we can still love each other.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why I love these candid conversations. We're coming against that whole thought of cancel culture, that conversations like this are taboo, or there's certain things we can't talk about, or oh, you can't talk about science and soul in the same conversation, or whatever the case may be. And there's no fear around that. And I thank you, girl, for just joining me once again, for having this candid conversation, for just being who you are, which is extraordinary, just soul, soul sister, and I just love you to death, Akari. And I want to give you the opportunity for the closing words before I wrap the show, or any thoughts. I want to make sure that your soul feels complete and it can speak what it came here to speak.
Goodness. So just that one sentence is everything because completion is something that no one really thinks about. And it is really how I operate within the spectrum of the people that I serve.
Mm,
A lot of coaches are, they work that similar paradigm as a therapist where you have 50 minutes to an hour go.
yeah.
And when
Nope.
people come and work with me, they always say 2 hours. That's a lot of time. And then all
Right.
of a
Right.
sudden, just yesterday, my client says, "Well, can I see you twice a week?" I'm like, "What happened to 2 hours? Is too many, too much time." So
Uh,
completion. That
completion.
is what I want people to leave with is
Hmm.
understanding what that completion feels like in your body. And
Yes.
do not be afraid to ask for what you need. And how that shows up
Mhm.
is going to be different for all of us, but
Yeah.
lean into the resources. We live in a world full of resources. Stop
Mhm.
taking things at face value. Do some research. Use
Yes.
the resources that you have so that you can have completion in whatever phase you're in life.
Girl, I love that. Oh, yes, goosebumps. Yes, so good. Audience, be sure to reach out to and follow Akary Busto on social media. All her information are in the show notes. Show her some love right now, please. If you are watching this right now on YouTube, Defining Paths Online, I need you to show her love. Share your thoughts, your feelings, your ahas from this conversation, any perspective shifts. We love to see that. We love to see it because these conversations are meant for you, right? They're life-giving conversations. Yes, they breathe life into us, right? But they are meant for you. So I want you to make sure you also share this episode because there's someone out there that you know who you don't even realize needs to hear this conversation. So be sure to do that. Like this episode, subscribe it, share it, all of that good stuff that you do in the social media world. And Faithful, I'd just like to leave you with this. The truth will set you free. That's what Candid Conversations is all about. This is the conversation we've been having, right? We've embraced the fear, we've made it our ally, and we are speaking our truth. We are allowing our soul to speak. So, our call to action to you is to learn how to think without the boxes, unplug from from that matrix, allow your soul to speak, right? The programming that's holding you back is literally snuffing out your soul. And you may not realize it, but some of you may be watching this right now because you realize it. So just realize that you have a choice. Exercise that willpower that Akari was talking about. You can unplug, you can come out of that mindless spiral to truly define your own path. You can heal, right? Just take off the mask, stop the denial. It all starts with you, the truth, and you having a candid conversation with your soul. That's what I did. I'm sure that's what Akari did as well, right? Having that candid conversation. Start being truthful with yourself. And so We thank you for just spending this time with us. And we just encourage you to listen to that conscious intuition, tap into it, be the captain of your fate and the master of your soul. And just take that big step. Reach out to Akary, reach out to us at Defining Paths International. We're here, we're a safe haven. We're all about truth, transparency, and love, and we got you. So let's pivot together. And Akary, thank you so much again, sis, for being here. Folks, I'm DocV, the Pivot Maestro, and your corner woman. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff, and be true to you always and define your path. And we'll see you on our next episode. So stay tuned.